She whispered, "This is my last birthday," and in that moment, everything inside him froze. Michael wasn't expecting those words. He had planned a simple evening with Emily, just the two of them at her small apartment in Toronto, a cake from her favorite bakery, and a movie they had talked about watching for months. But when she blew out the candles and leaned toward him with that quiet, trembling voice, the room suddenly felt heavier than it had moments before. Emily was only 29, far too young to be saying something like that. But she had been battling a rare illness for years, and though she tried to keep her spirit bright, Michael had noticed how much weaker she had become lately. Her smile always tried to hide the truth, but her tired eyes told a different story. And now, hearing her words, he realized she was preparing him for something he wasn't ready to accept. Michael felt his throat tighten, but he forced himself not to break down. "No," he whispered back, taking her hand. "This won't be your last birthday. Not if I can help it." She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that didn't argue, but also didn't believe. That's when Michael made a silent promise to himself: if this really was her last birthday, then he would make it the most unforgettable one of her life. The next morning, he made calls. He reached out to her childhood friends she hadn't seen in years, her old piano teacher who once told Emily she had magic in her fingers, and even her estranged brother who had been distant after a family argument. Everyone listened when Michael spoke because they could hear the desperation in his voice, the love in every word. Slowly, piece by piece, he began to build something that Emily never expected. 2 days later, he told Emily he was taking her out for a short drive. She wore her favorite scarf, the one her mother gave her before she passed, and she leaned back in the seat, curious but not asking too many questions. When he pulled up to the old community hall near the lake, she blinked in confusion. The moment she stepped inside, her hand flew to her mouth. The room was filled with faces, smiling, crying, waiting for her. Friends from school, neighbors from her hometown, even her brother standing nervously by the corner with a bouquet of wildflowers. Tears welled in Emily's eyes as everyone shouted, "Happy birthday." She turned to Michael, speechless, before collapsing into his arms. "How did you?" she whispered, her voice breaking. Michael only hugged her tighter. "Because you deserve to feel how much you are loved. Not just today, but always." The night turned magical. Her old piano teacher asked her to play just one song, and though her hands trembled, Emily sat down at the keys and filled the hall with the soft, fragile notes of the song she had played since she was a little girl. Her friends shared stories about her kindness, how she once gave away her winter coat to someone in need, how she always found time to listen even when her own world was heavy. Her brother finally stood before her, his eyes red. "I was stubborn," he admitted, "but I never stopped loving you." The hug they shared was long overdue, and the room fell silent watching them heal a wound that had lasted for years. As the evening stretched on, Emily looked around the room, every candle, every balloon, every person there for her. She leaned against Michael and whispered, "This is the happiest I've ever been." He kissed her forehead and said, "Then it won't be your last. Because even if birthdays end, love doesn't." Months later, Emily's health continued to decline, but the memory of that night carried her through. She would often close her eyes and recall the laughter, the piano keys, the hugs that stitched her heart back together. And, though she left this world sooner than anyone wished, her final months were not marked by loneliness or fear, but by love so pure it refused to fade. For Michael, the grief was heavy, but so was the gratitude. He had kept his promise. He had made her last birthday unforgettable. And every year after, he lit a candle by the lake where they once stood and whispered, "Happy birthday, Emily. You're still unforgettable." This story reminds us that sometimes we cannot change the ending, but we can change the moments leading there. Love, when given fully, has the power to make even the hardest goodbye feel like a life well lived. It's not about how many birthdays we get, it's about how we spend the ones we have. Would you like me to also make a description, hashtags, and search tags for this story so you can use it directly on your YouTube video?